Here we talk about another case of market failure, and this would be public goods and common property resources. First of all, public good, this is a good or service that when one person consumes it, the amount does not decrease, and that those people who do not pay for the good or service cannot be denied the benefits of that good or service. So these have two characteristics. These are what economists call non-rival. Non-rival means that if you consume it, it doesn't take away from me. If I consume it, it doesn't take away from you. It does not diminish the quantity. An apple is rival. You eat the apple, I can't get it. A car is rival. You buy the car, I can't use it. So non-rival are things we can use at the same time. And that would be things like looking at the sunrise or the sunset. You can watch it, I can watch it. You watch it doesn't take it away from me. We can listen to the radio at the same time. You listen to the radio, does not take away from me listening to the radio. Having flood control protection. You getting protection from flood control, I get protection at the same time. My protection does not diminish your protection. And the non-excludable are things that people who do not pay for it can still get the benefits. An example of that would be looking at the sunset again. I can look at it, you can look at it, we didn't pay for it. Listen to the radio, I didn't pay for it, I still can listen to the radio. Flood control, if they build flood control for you, and they want me to pay for it, well, why would I pay for it? If they build it, I can use it free. So if you can use it free, you're not going to pay for it. Now, a good example, probably the best example, is one that's sort of out of date, unfortunately, due to GPS devices, but a lighthouse. So the problem with a lighthouse is that it's a very useful creation back in the 1800s, 1900s, to warn ship captains of a rocky point. You're too close to the shoreline. Now the problem here is that if a private entrepreneur wanted to build a lighthouse and make money at it, it's not going to work. You build a lighthouse and you send out bills to all the ship captains, say you have to pay this bill if you want to use my lighthouse. Well, if I get that bill, I'm just going to tear it up, because if I don't pay the bill, I still can see the lighthouse. So I can't be excluded. And therefore, if you can't get people to pay, then you can't make money, and therefore you're not going to build it. And so the problem with the lighthouse and other public goods is that you have a free rider problem. People go along for a free ride. If I can use it without having to pay for it, then I won't pay for it. That's the problem with radio and television when it first came out. Went over the airways, you couldn't stop me from receiving the reception, and therefore you can't charge me a bill. And they had to come up with another way to make money at this so they could provide content, and that was through commercials, advertising. So if we can find a way to make money at it, then the private sector can provide it, such as television and radio, because they found a way through commercials. But if you can't make any money like a lighthouse or flood control or national defense, if Bill Gates went in the business of providing national defense and created a missile system, a border system, Coast Guard, and sent me a bill, well, again, I'm not going to pay for it because I get the benefit whether I pay that bill or not. If you protect America from invaders, then I get protected without having to pay anything. So the market will fail to provide these goods, very useful goods. And therefore the market will fail. The deadweight loss would be everything. There'd be no surplus at all. And therefore the only way to get people to pay for this is to force them, and that's through, again, government. So government can eliminate the free rider problem through mandatory payment, taxes, registration fees, things like that. So government can provide flood control, and they can tack that bill onto my property tax bill, and therefore they can force me to pay for flood control programs, for parks that we use, for local streets, street lights, things like that. They can force me to pay through increasing my property tax. And of course, we have a way for the residents, the people living in the city, to have a say in that through voting. And so essentially, we have to vote to tax ourselves, which may work or may not work. Chaffey College did that. We got a bond measure passed early 2000s, and then we have another bond measure passed a couple years ago. And these were ways to, and the voters voted on them, and they agreed to tax themselves. So Chaffey College can raise money to build new buildings, new campuses, renovate, and therefore the community said, it's worth it. So again, the problem with public goods is that the market sector, the free private sector, won't build them, and therefore to get these things provided, we have to have government to come in and force people to pay, and they can provide it directly. The one problem there is that we don't know the optimal amount because there's no market. So the government can try to survey people, give an idea of what they value, and the voters will decide through the voting whether it's worth it or not. So it's not optimal, but the voters can decide, cost-benefit analysis, is it worth it? Now, we have a lot of things provided by government that we like to call quasi-public goods. They're not pure public goods because people could be excluded. And these are things like fire protection, police protection, local streets. Government tends to provide these things at no additional cost, but they could. I mean, we could have a system where the fire department would mandate fees to pay for fire service. If you don't pay your fees, then the house catches on fire. They're not going to come put it out. You may think that's crazy, but it has happened in communities around the country, especially when budgets are tight. You find a lot of communities would privatize their fire department service, and if you want to get fire protection, you would have to pay a monthly fee. And there are cases, just Google on the news, Google fire departments letting houses burn down, because if your house catches on fire and they check their system and you didn't pay your fee, well, they're not going to put the fire out. And I've seen that visually on TV news. And the fire department shows up, not because they want to help you, but they want to make sure fire doesn't spread to neighbors who did pay their fees. So we could do that, and the same thing for police protection. We can have a fee-based system. We have to pay your fees for police protection. And if you don't pay your fee and someone breaks in your house, you call 911. The police say, sorry, you're on your own. Now this could happen, but the problem is politically it's not very popular. The local with the fire departments, when the houses burn down, it caused a lot of outrage from the residents in the area. And the local mayor and city council took a lot of heat for that. So not politically popular, and it's also probably not efficient. I mean, if someone breaks in your house and the police don't show up, then that person can break into my house later on. And therefore, it's probably more efficient to have the government provide police protection, fire protection, because they could probably do a better job, a more uniform job. And therefore, overall fires and crime will be kept lower. The last thing to talk about is common property resources. These are goods that are still non-excludable, but they are rival. For example, fishing in the ocean. It's not excludable. We can't stop ships from going out there for a long time unless you have a Coast Guard or something, which we have to do sometimes. And so these fishing fleets would take all the fish they can get, because why leave any fish out there for someone else? Same thing for well water, especially in the drought in California a couple years ago. We had the water table was falling because people were pumping so much water out. The water down below is in huge aquifers, and the water would go across property lines, and you just pump your water out of your neighbor's property line, and no one could stop you. And so you pump as much water as you can, and they're pumping so much water that the ground was actually shrinking. Sinking in as the water is being pumped out. Freeways. You get on the freeway, you don't have to pay for that. We can't exclude you, but at some point we have some people on the freeway that the traffic starts to slow down, and then we have traffic jams and so forth. So this is known as tragedy of the commons. The commons was a name used in England in the 15, 16, 1700s. The commons was a common land out there for pasture grazing, and no one owned it. Anyone in the community could use it. And by doing so, everyone took their sheep out there, their cattle out there, and they grazed as much as they could, which destroyed the commons. The grass was destroyed, and the commons was no longer able to be used to feed your animals. And so by overfishing, taking too much water out, too much traffic on the freeways, all that creates problems where now the resource becomes unusable. And therefore, to allow the resource to be usable, we need to again have government come in, regulation. So these common property resources will be overused, maybe to the point of destruction. A lot of fish out there have been destroyed. We have to have mandates, no more fishing for certain species of fish because we overfish. We have to stop and put mandates on pumping water out of wells. Maybe freeways no longer be free, but you have to pay to get on, like we have with the toll roads in Orange County. So the problem here is that we have overuse. We use more than the optimal, and therefore the only entity that can stop that again would be government through regulations, mandates. And that is it.